Hello, hello, dear listeners. Let's do this. Okay, I am here to provide you tools, perspective, reflection questions, really the kind of practical inspiration that shows up when I am coaching executives and founders, leaders inside organizations, their teams. I want to bring those resources, the best of, if you will, as we get into today's topic on lessons learned. And I want to break this down and get into it in three ways. The first, I want us to explore together why it's important to look back. Second, I want to give you some ways for how you can access and get into reflecting on looking back. And I'll share a few of my favorites of ways to kind of get the juices flowing, start thinking. And then finally, I want to share a little bit more structure and really offer a very practical resource on letter writing. So, how you can write a letter. And I will close things out today by sharing my own letter. I am often not reading from a script. I'm not sharing, oh, here's like the exact thing that I planned out every word. That's not how I flow in the podcast. But for today, I thought that would be really nice. Okay, so let's jump in. The importance of looking back. There is such a natural desire, especially as we are closing a chapter, and the calendar year wrapping is a natural end. And in organizational life, we are usually anywhere from like September-ish up to present. Sometimes it gets pulled forward and even sooner. But we begin this process of what is the strategy that we're setting for the coming year? What are the goals? How are we aligning resources and talent around the direction that we're moving in? So by the time we hit the calendar end, we've been so naturally looking ahead already to what are we calling and where are we headed? I feel it myself where I'm like, wait, we're not in 2023 yet. Which year are we in? Because there's so much attention and focus on what's coming. I suspect you listening can relate to this. And yet, where we're coming from will inform where we're headed. And you can't actually reflect on the year as like the fullness of the year when you sit in August. Can you do a mid-year check-in? Of course, I recommend it. I think it's great. It's perspective taking. And we want to look at the fullness of the chapter that is this year and ask ourselves, what are the things that we want to take away? What are the things that can help us see how we can grow into what we're calling in the coming year and years? And so by looking back, we can bring data, we can bring rigor, we can bring perspective, experience to what we're stepping into. And so that to me is the power of taking stock. And I mean, you can look at this from a historical perspective and how history repeats itself when we think history writ large, global history. And at the same time, we look at our personal histories, and the same can be true. So, are there things that you want to disrupt in the history of how you've been doing things up until now? Are there things you want to repeat, to amplify as you look forward? And this is the kind of richness that emerges when we take the time to look back. Now, how do we do this? So I have a favorite way, which is that, and this for me often happens aligned with shifting into tax season and really setting up the order of things as I step into the new year. And because I'm me and the way I like to do things is this very felt intuitive way of moving through things, rather than just go to my updated spreadsheets and things I've been working on to hand off to my accountant, which I do. I like to kind of feel my way through, like, what's all the travel I did in the year? Who have I worked with? And so I will go through my calendar day by day, week by week. And this is not like, oh, I'm spending an hour on every day. Not even close. It's like pretty quick. But I just look back through my calendar and notice patterns and things that in the course of my day to day life, I'm not paying attention to. So I might see on a personal level, okay, what were the vacations we took? What were the plays my daughter were in? What were the activities we signed the kids up for? It's in the calendar. On a client level, I will see clients who maybe I worked with in the first half of the year. And I'm like, oh, and then maybe we wrapped that work and there's new clients that emerge in the second half of the year. I'll see those deep relationships where I'm doing expansive work that goes across the calendar year with clients, often working with many different groups within an organization when I'm doing that kind of work, many different people. I'll see those clients show up on my calendar, and just gives that felt sense. So I like to use the calendar as one tool to open up and see, okay, what does the calendar suggest to me about my year? And again, there's something about that perspective taking that helps me on that. I also like to gather with others. And I did a recent podcast, Gather Good, that looked at some of the ways that I do this. So it was fortuitous timing that the entrepreneurs getaway that I did with two of my dear friends fell late in the year in November. So that helps give me perspective. But it's also, I will likely between celebrating Christmas with my family and New Year's, sit down with my husband and partner and say, what are you noticing on this year? What am I noticing? And just to be in community with him. I hope that I will have some walks with some of my friends here and talk with them and do the same. And so just like having that time with others. So gathering with those who you trust, who you can be in community with, and just in reflection, in service of one another, offering that deep listening and point of view. So gathering with others, that's a great resource to also reflect on your year. And then finally, creating space to reflect on your own. So not so much like looking at a at a tool or the calendar, not being with others, but like quieting the noise and just coming within yourself and saying, yeah, what am I learning? And you can do that through meditation and sneak peek. We're going to do some meditation looking out into the coming year. That's coming in a podcast episode near you, last episode of the year. And you can also do this just through journaling, reflecting, sitting, being. These all could be, by the way, sitting and being might be your form of meditation. It might take different shape for you. So just anything that allows you to let go of the distractions and go within. Like that's what I'm after. And that takes me to the very last thing I wanted to share today, which is a particular tool that I like to leverage where you can write a letter to yourself. And what I like about this is it gives structure and a way to shape and think about things. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the prompts, and I'll have these in the show notes over at pointwordstudios.com, or you can get it in the episode notes wherever you're listening to this podcast, and that'll link to that. And what I want you to see with these prompts is that it's not about having to answer all of them, but the prompts are there to get you thinking in 3 discrete categories. So, and then I like the letter format, and this is why I'm going to share with you my own letter at the end. Is by having the different prompts, it's like what gets you thinking, what gets the juices flowing for you. And I myself like to time box most everything. And because I find it's a real tool for creativity, it helps me cut through my perfectionism of if only I had more time, if I could do more on this, I could iterate more. So I gave myself 10 minutes and then I gifted myself about 2 minutes more after. So my letter was written in 12 minutes. If you want to give yourself 15 minutes, if you want to give yourself 5 minutes and do it in bullets or write really fast, great, but set a time. And then if you want to gift yourself more to refine, do that too. Like that's okay, but like get the first thing done. I'm just like Let yourself get grounded on that. So here's the three paragraphs that I would invite you to create in your letter. In paragraph one, you're going to take stock on the past year. So this is really about you getting to reflect on, okay, what am I seeing? What am I noticing? Whether you did that, were prompted on things through meeting with others and talking about it, whether you looked through your calendar, inspired by some of these exercises that I've shared, or you're just sitting down and looking at the prompts and some of the kinds of things you might answer as you take stock on the past year. And you don't have to answer them all, right? It's just about what gets you flowing in your ideation, in your reflection. Things like, because you're writing the letter to yourself. So it might be, as I look back on the year, I wanted to let you know. You might answer, I'm celebrating, I'm proud of, I worked really hard to, I learned, right? What do you want to remember as you take stock on the past year? Paragraph two is really about noticing what led you to where you got. Like you're ending the year now. What supported you? What got you here? So you might be thinking about the thing that supported me most, the values that have guided me, the challenge I faced is or was, the thing that made all the difference. Right? These are prompts to help you thinking about, how did I get here? What guided me? What got in my way? What supported me? But like, how did I get here? Good. That's what you're looking at in paragraph two. Paragraph three is about curation. Really thinking about, when you look at the year, what are the lessons that you're taking away? And even as you look ahead to how you'll lead with this learning as you step forward. So what am I learning? What's the advice that I want to hold on to? What's the thing I want to leave behind? What do I want to carry with me from this year? These are the kinds of things that you can start to pull together as you curate. Yeah, what does all of this mean when I take stock and I think about what got me here? What's the meaning I make around it? That's what you're doing in paragraph three. And as I said, all these prompts, you can find them, go to the show notes. And then this might seem silly, but like, use the letter format. Dear me. And at the end, I like to close mine out with, love me. You may have a different salutation and greeting. That's fine. But there is something about actually like writing to yourself. And when I do this at this time of year, I like to write to myself in the present. Like, this is for me right now. So it is like I'm getting on the balcony of my life and my leadership, the wholeness of me and who I am and how I move through the world. And I'm saying, okay, dear me, this is what I want you to know. There are other times in the year, like for example, mid-year, I like to, and for me, that's often in an August timeframe after I've gone through taking vacation as a family in July. And I like to do a Dear Me exercise, same questions, same prompts, seeing what emerges, but I do it as an imagined self at the end of the year. So like, it's like my little, like, here's a boost. Like, now let's reflect on, like, remember where you said you were, what you were thinking about, and how you wanted to take that into the new year. How you doing? And what do you think? Where do you think you're going to be at the end of the year? So you can use it at different times and kind of think about what's the orientation of what part of yourself are you writing to? Is it a future self? Is it a present day self? For me, the chapter close at the end of the year, I really like it to be, here I am writing to myself right now. Okay, now with all of that shared, I hope that this will inspire you to write your own letter. Your letter will be in your own unique voice and therefore beautiful and lovely for that very reason. When you write it, please send it to me. Tag me. I want to see what are the letters that you're putting out into the world. And if you don't want to share it with me, that's also cool. Share it with someone. Like give voice to your letter in a way that feels safe to you. And that's, that would be the parameters I would guide you to there. So I wrote a letter, as I shared. I gave myself those 10 minutes, gave myself some bonus 2 minutes. I knew I was going to be reading it. So there are some specifics that I might have written down for myself. I imagine myself going back and maybe giving myself another 15 to 30 minutes to like write a little more. Um, and that's what felt safe to me. And I share this with you because I think it's helpful to get a flavor of what this can sound like in practice. So, and to know, as I said, yours will sound different. So let's see if I can read my own handwriting as I share this with you. And I'm going to really hold myself to not interrupting the letter. I want you to hear it in this way. And when you share it with someone, I want to invite you to do the same, because the impulse to explain and start directing what we're writing shows up. But there's something really lovely about letting the letter voice speak for itself. So here we go. Dear me, as I look back on this year, I wanted to let you know that you have accomplished a lot. Remember where you were in August 2020? A home full of boxes, a heart full of wishes. Look how much you've accomplished. I am proud of the things I've said no to, of the boundaries I've learned to set, of the clients I've served, of the love I have gifted out into the world. The thing that supported me is being in community with others, especially women. Also honoring and creating space for my body to really let my spirit show up within my body. Thank you to Allie Love and her Peloton. Thank you to the handful of women who I share so many Marco Polos with back and forth. Thank you to my Catskill ladies, whether in our reimagined book club turned Sister Moon Circle, or the ladies who have inspired me to literally submerge myself in cold waters. You help me step outside of myself and at the same time into myself. It's such a gift. Thank you to my clients who've let me guide them. I honor your gorgeous visions, the bold missions you lead into and towards, and I'm forever grateful that I get the gift of partnering with you on your journeys. And thank you to my family. You bring joy to the daily routines of my life. Your curiosity and creativity and wildness delight me and infuriate me and always push me to grow. As I look ahead to the coming year, what I want to carry with me is love, strength, and magic. I want to radiate these qualities and magnify them in the people around me. And I want to find joy in the unfolding, both when I move and when I rest, and to trust that that is enough. Love me. And with that, dear listeners, I invite you to go forth to reflect on the lessons that you have learned, maybe to write a letter to yourself, and to always shine out fully in your brightness. Please know that I am here cheering for you and holding my own deeply held belief that there is nothing stopping you. So go on ahead and get after whatever it is that you really want.